Greetings out there in YouTube land. This is Morris, man, and as always, I thank you guys for coming to my channel. Per request, because from time to time I have subscribers that ask me to do a little video on some of the gear that I do and kind of give a little history. So I'm going to do that for this particular guitar. This is a Tele copy, vintage. It was built actually around somewhere in the 70s because the guy that sold it to me gave me a little history on it. And it's interesting because around the 70s, when new guitar companies were coming around or maybe already established, they start kind of, I guess, for better lack of words, ripping off the other brands' guitars, as far as their specifications. Because you've heard of the famous lawsuits, the Ibanez lawsuits and other lawsuits. And back then, I think they were a little more loose with copying other people's specifications, because this guitar, I've seen vintage Teles that were built in the 60s and it looks just like one of those guitars, and it feels and plays like one of those guitars because again they were very I guess custom to taking specifications. Because if I was a guitar maker and didn't know that much about it, I would probably do the same thing. I would go get my favorite guitar that I have and try to build, I guess, a model around that. And the problem was the model around that was too close to the actual one. And, my bass player called me and said, man, I know a guy that's selling a vintage relic looking Tele, and I know you into the Tele thing again. And, you were talking about perhaps purchasing a relic because I'm trying to expand my versatility as far as the guitars that I have. At the same time, reducing my guitar collection with some of them that I already have multiple ones that all sound the same. So I said, you know what? I'd be open to kind of a beat up, rusty, relic looking Tele. So I went over there and I played it. I was quite impressed. And what I noticed with this guitar, and I've only had one other one like that, and I regret that I sold it, and the guy that's enjoying it, I'm sure you know who you are. The Neo, I guess it was like a Neo Blue Telecaster. That thing felt good. And that was the first guitar that I played that had that ultra low action, to the point it was almost kind of uncomfortable initially to play because I was used to playing certain types of setups. And when I played that guitar, like with this one, the strings are so low that they're literally like sitting on the fretboard, but they're not buzzing. And that's the amazing part. I'm like, when I try to take mine as low as it can go, I get buzzing down on the 12th, 15th, 16th fret. But this guitar, just like the other neon blue guitar that I sold to Tele, they're very low. And the strings sound kind of flat, but you get kind of used to playing it or get used to it because I'm listening to a lot of these 60 songs, and I'm doing a new DVD bundle coming out probably next week, DVD bundle number 5, and it's dedicated to 60 songs because the 60 songs I think were some of the best written songs in music history to me. But getting back to the guitar, and I'm listening to the Motown guitar stuff that they use Teles, and it sounds just like this guitar. I love this guitar. It feels good to play, great neck. I was able to find one of those Telecaster pick guard plates, as you can see down there, because they don't really make them no more for the guitars, for the plates to fit on the Teles, because there's like these little hooks that the pick guard thing clamps onto. But with the new Teles, there is no hook, so you can't put that vintage cool looking plate on the guitar. But I love it, and what's interesting is when I got it home and I plugged it up, I couldn't get no sound out of it because of the jack in the guitar was kind of not tight enough. Because a lot of times when you had that issue, just take the screws out and then take that little wiring thing, kind of push it closer and make it a little closer, tighter. So when you stick the plug in, it literally attaches itself, clamps onto it. So I put it in, it wouldn't work. So I took it out, I squeezed it down to make it a little tighter. And before I screwed it back in, I tested it, it worked. So then when I screwed it back in, it wouldn't work. And I did this a couple of times. I said, you know what? For some reason, the way that it's positioned with the screws, it would not stay locked. So I said, you know what? It's a relic guitar and it looked beat up already. So I'm just going to stick some duct tape down there and not worry about putting the screws back. You know, and it kind of worked because you know it kind of fits the way this guitar looks. But again, I just thought I would do a video on this guitar because I love this guitar, man. This thing plays like butter. You know, every now and then you run across a guitar that is just you're like, oh, yeah. You know, and then there's some that you run into, it's like just not feeling it. You know, it's not that there's nothing wrong with this guitar, but it's just I'm not feeling this one. But this one here, definitely feeling it. I'm a sucker for headstocks. I like my headstocks thin, and that's the thinnest Tele headstock I've ever seen. Even with the Fender Tele, I've never seen them that thin. For some reason, I don't like big, nasty, clunky, big-looking ones. Like with XX guitars, when they first rolled out the vintage models, they had a cool headstock. But then I think they were forced by legal reasons to change it to that big, ugly one they got now. So just as a result of the headstock, I won't even touch those guitars. But again, I'm gonna leave a link down here, you know, on this video so you can listen to the guitar and some of the covers I did. But this thing feels great and it sounds great, and I can understand why people want to grab the vintage stuff because I think there was more craftsmanship put into those earlier guitars. And not to take away from the modern guitars, but when you play a vintage guitar, you know what I'm talking about. It's like, whoa, you know, just everything fits in place. The neck feels good. It just feels good to play. It sounds good. It looks good. You know, so again, I'm going to sign off, but I just thought I would do a video on this specific guitar. It's a copy of a Tele. It was made in somewhere in the 70s, and looks and sounds great. Until next time, take care. Thanks for watching.